Hi there everyone, welcome to my office. Something a bit different on Objectivity today. I'm going to show you some of my own personal objects. And today I want to talk to you about space, and in particular the moon, which is a really big passion of mine, and the Apollo lunar landings, which I'm a little bit obsessed with. Let me start with this moon globe that sits here in my office. This is actually Russian. It was a gift from my wife. You see, we have this old-fashioned map of the moon, as it was known at that point. But the thing I like best is if we turn it around to the far side of the moon, the side of the moon that never faces the Earth, because the Earth and the moon are tidally locked, which means one face of the moon is always pointing towards the Earth. We never see that far side. And until we could send space probes around the back, we didn't know what it looked like. And this globe is so old that we actually have a sliver of the moon that they didn't know. They didn't know what to put there. They couldn't map it. Turns out it's a bunch of craters. The far side of the moon's actually more cratered than the side that faces us. The side that faces us has all those smooth sea-like areas. You don't get so much of that on the other side, but there we go. I don't know where, I think I bought this on eBay, I don't know what was going on. This is an Italian map of the moon, which I really like, and it's sort of got relief to it. Got the hills and the seas I was just talking about. They're not actual seas of water, of course, they're just sort of volcanic basins, but there we go. But what I really want to show you are my astronaut autographs. I went through a phase of getting a little bit obsessed with collecting the autographs of astronauts, particularly Apollo astronauts. I do have some here in my office, and I'll show you those now. Shall I leave the moon there?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
There you go, moon. You can stay there, moon. All right, this first one I'll show you is from Apollo 8. Apollo 8 was the first Apollo mission to go to the moon.
3, 2, 1, 0. We have committed. We have liftoff.
They didn't land, they kind of just went into orbit and then came back. They were testing some equipment, make sure they could get there and back with humans on board. It was the first time humans had seen what's called the Earthrise, the notion of the Earth rising behind the moon instead of like a sunrise or a moonrise. At the time, it was an amazing image, and it's an image that has been back in the news lately because of the recent Artemis mission. We've started seeing these pictures again of the Earth and the moon together. But this is where it all started, and that's signed by Frank Borman, who was the commander of the Apollo 8 mission. Not bad, eh? These days it'd be a selfie, wouldn't it? It'd be like, have I got it right? 12 men, they've all been men, have walked on the moon. Only one of them was a proper scientist, a geologist, and they did it in the last mission to the moon, Apollo 17. And this is him. His name's Haran Schmidt. Look, he's got a moon globe in the foreground like mine. I bet his isn't Russian. Haran Schmidt later became a politician. I think he was elected to Congress. But I actually had a second picture signed by him that I forgot I had. So here's another photograph signed by Haran Schmidt on Apollo 17. You can see they're doing some geology on the rocks there. There's a great tradition of geologists throwing their rock hammers out into the sites that they explore, and Haran Schmidt famously threw his hammer at the end of the mission.
Ready for this? Yeah. Don't hit the lamp or the outstep. Look at that. Look at that. Beautiful. 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Apollo 11 was the first mission to land on the moon. It was Buzz Aldrin, who we'll come to later, and Neil Armstrong, who we'll come to later, who walked on the moon. But their mate up above, circling in the command module, Columbia, was Michael Collins. There we have him. He died not so long ago. I was lucky to be able to have that signed before he passed. Really good painter. Did lots of lovely sort of nature paintings later in life. One of the most famous astronauts is a guy called John Young, walked on the moon, but also did a lot of later missions. He's a real astronaut. And this is a very famous picture of him leaping above the surface of the moon, saluting next to the flag with the landing module and the lunar rover there. And see that thing behind him there? See that on the tripod? That is a telescope. They took a telescope up to the moon to look at the stars. All right, let's deal with the man himself. This was another gift from my wife and Destin Sandlin of Smarter Everyday fame. They knew I was missing a Neil Armstrong, first man to walk on the moon, so they sorted that for me. He's there, not on the moon, of course, he's there at a university receiving an award. This next chap is not an astronaut. He could have been an astronaut. Some people thought he would become one, but he was never selected. This is Chuck Yeager, very famous test pilot. First man to break the sound barrier, to fly faster than sound. There he is in the plane in which he did it, Glamorous Glennis, which he named after his wife. Unfortunately, he too has passed now. Oh, hang on. I also got him to sign that one. I love that picture. That's Glamorous Glennis in action. Let me show you some of these. Buzz Aldrin, Apollo 11. There he is, next to the landing leg of the Eagle, after the Eagle had landed. In the foreground, you can see all those footprints on the moon from their boots. Rusty Schweickart, Apollo 9, which just went up into Earth orbit. He's doing a spacewalk there, testing out some of the gear. Fred Hayes, who was on board the famous Apollo 13 mission.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Did it end badly? Like, it went wrong, but it ended well. He was on board. I'm sure you've seen the movie. Alan Bean, Apollo 12. Great photograph, that one. You can see his fellow moonwalker there, reflected in his visor. That's Pete Conrad was his fellow moonwalker. Scott Carpenter. That's a Mercury astronaut. They were the first 7 American astronauts, the Mercury astronauts. Signatures there in silver. Not too easy to see, that one. Edgar Mitchell there, lunar module pilot, moonwalker on Apollo 14. I always like that picture because he's like looking at the map. It's like he's trying to find out where he's going, looking up directions. He walked on the moon with Alan Shepard, who was the first American in space. Let me show you this. This is an astronaut from Adelaide, where I'm from. Later became an American citizen, I think, at the time, because it would help him get into space. But he was from Adelaide, so Adelaideans are very proud of him, and I got to meet him once in my capacity as a journalist, so I got him to sign that for me. That's Andy Thomas. I tend to prefer the sort of the more vintage astronauts, the Apollo ones, but people who kind of watch the videos and know who I am do know that I like astronaut autographs. And a little while ago, a viewer sent me some astronaut autographs. I think he or she was at an event that was attended by lots of astronauts, so they went crazy and collected all these ones for me. I'm so sorry I haven't got your name to hand, but I really appreciated it. Let me show you what I was sent. I don't really know these astronauts, but they've all signed these things to me. There we go. Daniel Burbank, that is. That's helpful. Robert Cabana. Bob Springer. And then randomly, there was obviously no official portrait for this astronaut to sign, so they signed a paper plate. I think we were able to use the mission numbers there to figure out that was an astronaut named Stephen Bowen. And if you too have a paper plate signed by Stephen Bowen, you are in elite company. There we go. There's a little taste of my Apollo astronaut collection. Moons, paper plates. I hope you enjoyed it.
I think we should maybe open the box.
I don't think we should. I think we should put this away and maybe... No, of course we're going to... Of course we're going to open the box. Here we go. Look at that. We've got some shiny, shiny medals there. And we have a little map in the top of the box as well. And obviously these medals are from the old Soviet Union. Obviously it involves space. It involves the Russians, who were famous protagonists of the epic space race of the 1950s and 60s.